Okay, so learning resources for teachers and students of all ages. So like I said, Alberta Learning and Information Services is something that is for an older audience. We'll just let it load here. And they've just actually recently rebranded and facelifted their website. So it's got a much more modern look and it's a lot less confusing. The old website had a lot of just hyperlinks that seemed to put you down rabbit holes and you got lost very quickly and not in a good way. So the new website is really great for people in, maybe late junior high, high school, looking at what's after high school. Whether that's they want to continue on to do, internships, apprenticeships, college, university, whatever their path may be. And there's also, if you're looking for ideas for careers, if you're not someone who's going to be doing post-secondary education, what are the options that you have? Where do you need to get started? This is definitely a really, really great website that I would try and have open, or at least promoted, around where the teens and the young adults sit in your library. And you can kind of see on the carousel of, if they're thinking about post-secondary education, these are some options for you. And it's kind of rotating almost like a casino thing here. So there's lots of different things you can get out of this. Like I said, it's a pretty open-ended website, and it's all government run. So you're not getting some random sketchy information off of Kijiji or Wikipedia, which can sometimes be helpful. But when you're looking at career and education information, this is somewhere where I would feel much more comfortable sending patrons and I'm sure yours as well. So definitely let any local teachers or guidance counselors or anything like that know that this exists if they already don't. And if you have a certain time of the day that maybe the students come to the library after school and that's when they tend to go on to the computers, maybe have this kind of as the homepage, or have it kind of pre-launched when you have a chance to go over to the computers and set that up. Any questions here about ALIS? Okay. Next is the Alberta Research Portal. So this is a relatively new addition that's been made. Gail, that gave these databases that are on here, made a deal with TAL essentially. So everyone that is within Alberta on an internet that has internet has access to this. So there is no barcode login. You don't have to be, in school or anything like that. It's essentially one of the most comprehensive collections of primary source databases that I can think of. It was purchased permanently by, you can see on the screen there, the people who made contributions to that. So definitely thank you to them. Primary documents are extremely expensive to digitize because of how delicate they are and where they're generally housed. So this is a really unique opportunity that a lot of our libraries have. Obviously, it's great for students if they're doing any sort of history or political science or looking at old magazines and that kind of stuff projects. This is a good option for them. But we also have, especially in Northern Alberta here, we have a pretty decent size of our population is seniors, and they really get into all the genealogy and the programs and that kind of stuff. This is a good option for them to look into. I also mentioned this to the Slave Lake archivist there too, of, if you want to, you guys are trying to reach out to get donations for your archives, try pulling primary documents like this and maybe organizing a program or a display around them to get people interested. This is something that's a little bit more likely to catch their eye and then get them in a conversation about, that they could donate this and that to the library archives and that kind of stuff. So this is your homepage here. If you search here, it's just going to do a general search of the majority of the databases. So if you want to try something like, oh, it's taking a while. Let's try that again. So you're going to get a general results page from however many databases that were searched. You can see what databases were searched right on top here beside the search bar, and you can click that to get a drop-down menu, and you can unclick things if maybe you're looking for um, a certain word that something like Halifax. Well, there's a Halifax in Canada, there's a Halifax in England as well. So you can say, I don't want documents to coming from this database because that has a topic or a geographic area that is going to confuse my results or that are irrelevant to me. You have your refining options on the left here, so you can refine by types. You can see the databases that are coming from, so maybe the Times Digital Archives is giving you more results, so you want to look more into there, as well as the subjects, the publication years, depending on what your topic is, what you're searching for, what your thesis is. That is going to, this will be very helpful for that. You'll also notice here that there is an Analyze Results option. So if you hit Term Clusters, it will essentially give you a graph to show you the terminology that you input to get in this search. Excuse me. As it's loading here, maybe you need to change your terminology. There's, maybe there's a slave lake somewhere else in the world that's giving hits that you didn't think of. So maybe you need to specify that it's in Alberta, that it's in Canada. Maybe you need to use a different word because maybe, for different parts of the world, we have different words for different things. So, elevator is elevator in Canada, but, they'll use lift or something in the UK. So if you come here and you're looking at your results and say, this is not what I'm looking for, this is a good way to help you refine your results. This is a just generally really good tool for people learning how to do research. So, junior high, high school, this is something that could be really, really helpful for them. You can search a specific database instead of searching all of them. So from the home here, if you just go to resources, it's going to give you a list of all of them. So the home page here is alphabetized A to Z, and then you can also pick a certain subject. So if you're saying, I only want the databases that are science focused because that's what my homework is for, you can click on that and you get a refinement of just the relevant databases for you. And from here, you can just click on it and you enter essentially like the website of that database. You don't have to have an account to do any of this. However, if you do want to make an account on here so you can save documents, maybe you're on, like a library computer, and you maybe don't have email access at home or something like that, but you want to just save it to a single spot. It works kind of the same way as WorldBook does. You'll just create an account using the sign in option on the top right, and you'll just hit add to folder for items. Each database's website looks a little bit different. The Smithsonian one is really, really nice because it is the Smithsonian. But for the most part, they all have the same features and that kind of stuff. So you can just kind of browse through and find whatever you're looking for. Depending on the topic, some of them are relatively new things. Something like sexuality and human identity is relatively new kind of concept, whereas some of them are collection of early Arabic printed books, all that kind of stuff. That's going to go to a very different timeline, and including we have databases in here looking at Indigenous peoples specifically as well. So there is no shortage of information on here. Even if you want to start doing just like a cool artifacts stuff we found on the internet kind of thing and posting it, if you have a display or something like that in the library, this is kind of a way for you to kind of show everything off. Any questions about the Alberta Research Portal? Okay. The Canadian Financial Literacy Database. So this is one that, depending on the school, the teacher, the curriculum, and honestly could be great for older, people outside of high school and university, is financial literacy. That's not something that I can sadly say as someone who I went to a relatively good high school in Southern Ontario, and I was never taught how to do taxes or budgeting and all that kind of stuff. That was a life skill that I learned kind of the hard way growing up. But I met a startling number of people in university and in grad school that they didn't know how to go grocery shopping or to budget or figure out, what to spend money on. And they learned, they got kind of thrown into the deep end, being alone, away from home in university, that kind of thing. So this is an interesting place if you have people that are looking for some sort of financial help or guidance. They have a couple different ways that you can search for things. You can look for a specific type of finances, if it's banking or insurance and all that kind of stuff, retirement and stuff. Or you can say, each person has different needs and different opportunities when it comes to finances. Retired people, senior students, Indigenous peoples, all that kind of stuff. You can come here and say, I am, unemployed or underemployed. See what we have here that who you can contact for some help and guidance. On the home page here as well, you can see this here, take the quiz. And I kind of dare you to take it and see what you get, because I am not as up to date on finances as I had thought and hoped I was. So it's just kind of a quiz, and everyone likes to be competitive and take quizzes and that kind of stuff, especially online. And it kind of just goes over very basic things when it comes to finances and mortgage and taking out student loans and all that kind of stuff. So it can help shock people into realizing, oh yeah, I should probably figure out exactly what I'm getting myself into with taking out all these student loans and that kind of stuff. So this is just something that, like I said, it's great for teaching people before they leave the nest, but sometimes that doesn't happen, or you've learned everything you can about how to save for your retirement and all that stuff, but you don't know now that you are retired what exactly you do. So this is just an option for you here, and it is the federal government. So again, gives some legitimacy to the name and that kind of such. Oh, sorry, any questions about the Canadian Financial Literacy Database? Okay, perfect. Oh, there we go. Canada GenWeb project. So this is one that they kind of work with Ancestry. They're kind of connected. It's great, especially for if you have seniors. Oops, sorry. If you have seniors doing any sort of genealogy research, or not just seniors, but seniors tend to be the most common people who do that. Anyone, this is a really great place to go if they're just getting started and they maybe don't necessarily know what to do, or they got as many generations back as they can in Alberta, and then all of a sudden they realize that their family is, they moved from Nova Scotia, so they have to, find out how to access documents there, because not everything, I can tell you from experience, is digitized from Nova Scotia. So this is just kind of a place you can go to get general information about doing research in genealogy. And like I said, it's kind of connected to the Ancestry community here. It's not a database to do searching of primary documents, but it is helpful. You can't really start, delving into genealogy kind of research without having something set up, having a general idea of what you're doing and where you should be looking for that kind of stuff. So if you have anyone doing any sort of historical research, Canadian history research, that kind of stuff, or if they are doing a genealogy homework assignment, that kind of stuff, this is a good place for them to kind of get started with information. They do have things organized by province as well within here. So if you hit home, you can say Acadian is obviously not a province, but there are kind of a different branch, and then you can kind of break down the provinces and territories from within there. You can also take a look at different research and projects and that kind of stuff going on, and if you want to volunteer as well, that stuff is all here. Like I said, Cloud Library, we all know and generally use the ebook platforms. Dictionary of Canadian Biography. This is a really interesting website, actually, that I kind of wish I had known about when I was in, elementary school and high school. As someone who did an undergraduate degree in history, I saw this and got so excited. Just because someone in history doesn't have a Wikipedia page doesn't mean they weren't important to history. And Canada is pretty privileged in, we get acknowledged in history for the most part from what we do. But, there are very, Americanized points of view, where we all know who George Washington was, but do you know who so-and-so was? Or even someone as big as like Sir John A. Macdonald. I know tons of people who have really no general idea of who he was other than the Prime Minister. I went to undergrad school at Brock University. I still, to this day, meet people who went there who don't know who Sir Isaac Brock was. And those are, some relatively big names in Canadian history. And I can honestly say, too, I used to find Canadian history rather boring. So this is a great website to go for those small unknown people in Canadian history that they don't have a Wikipedia page. They're not really going to be mentioned in a large history course or that kind of stuff. You can come here and find some really interesting people that have a role in Canadian history. And like I said, they're not going to be big names that you're going to find full Wikipedia pages about. But nonetheless, you are likely not going to have someone that did the same project as you. I know I did a couple projects in history class, and half the class would pick Laura Secord as a person, and the other half of the class would pick Tecumseh. Not that they were important, but there are other people in Canadian history. So this is somewhere you can go for that. They always have a rotating carousel of popular ones. They have on the top here, you can search. You can see any newly added. They normally promote one each day. And they're nice that they have citations normally included. So you have a kind of a, what am I looking for? Kind of table of contents on the side here that they normally try to include an image, whether that's a painting or a sketching or a photo. Normally it's a sketching because of how old some of these people are. And at the bottom, after you finish, reading through, you can see, all the references and bibliographies, any related pictures, and you have citations here. So this is really, really important for students getting into the habit of citing their work. I know when I was a kid, they had just put it in a bracket of the author's name and the date, and that was fine. And then you got to university and you realized, oh my God, there's MLA and APA in Chicago and Harvard. There's a million different ways to cite things. So having the information that you need here that you can either get into the habit of knowing the format you have to put it in, or if you are kind of lazy like I was and just put it into one of those, build citation websites and it made it for you. This is here for you either way to get the information and use it. Yes. Any question about Dictionary of Canadian Biography? It's not one that's currently promoted on the carousel rotator, but I think I am going to be adding it in to start in October, I believe it is. So it will be added on there. So slowly but surely you can hopefully get people introduced to the websites, the resources, by having a couple of them promoted each month or so on the website. Early Canadian Online. I'm sure this is probably one that most of people have at least heard of. They may not have gone to the website, but it's a relatively common name. It is a primary document digitization project. It is by no means every primary document, but it is a collection of, I think the titles have, it says on the page here. So documents have the ability, there's 21 different languages worth of documents in here. So we have the English and the French, but there's some First Nations languages in here. There's some Latin and some Greek. They're documents that have been deemed of importance, or they give some sort of history to Canada from when we started colonizing to the first half of the 20th century or so. You can search for a specific collection. You can go down here and see the list of collections that we have here. There's Women's Studies, Jesuit Relations, Hudson's Bay Company, the History of French Canada, Health and Medicine, Genealogy and Local History, English Canadian Literature, Early Official Publications, the Early Governors General of Canada, Early Canadian Periodicals, and Aboriginal Studies. And you can search within the collection specifically here, just pick one and then search here. You can also just, search specific collection, search, what am I searching? Am I searching for something as the title, the whole document, the creators, the subject, what? And you can see the collections there. If you are trying to limit to a document within a certain date range, I've had courses in university and high school where, it was pick a primary document from, the 19th century, 18th century, whatever it was, and tell me something about what the document says and what it tells you that it's not saying. The terminology, the political environment that's going on in the background. It's not written in stone there, but you can kind of tell what they're beating around the bush about. And you can also just hit random document, especially if you have people that are history buffs, kind of like myself, and just see a random document if they just need inspiration for a project, something like that. You have that here. They seem to be pretty continuously adding content to this website. And again, it is something that's open to the general public, so they don't have to be in the library. They don't need a patron barcode to log in. None of that. Any questions about early Canadiana? Okay. Next is EBSCO. So this is actually a really underused resource that we have here. Databases are extremely expensive to get access to. Universities are simply having to just drop whole databases that aren't really necessary, if they're not like super necessary, just because of the rising cost of them. And they have so much relevant and important information. It's so much easier to access things from a database rather than having to replace whole encyclopedias. These don't really take up any space. It is patron exclusive, so they will have to put their barcode in to access this. And once they're in, they don't have to make an account, but kind of just the same thing as the Alberta Research Portal. You can make an account and just, if you have, multiple classes where you have to do research for, make a folder for each class, and, one's for English, one's for history, one's for political science, and you can add documents to it that way and then just, keep them in one single place. You can search all of the databases. If you hit show all, you'll see the full list of everything. You can also just choose a specific database by subject. Maybe you just want to search the business ones, and we will search Canadian dollar, because that went up recently. So from here, you can see you're going to get the option to refine the databases it's searching on the right-hand side. The more databases you search, the longer it will take to retrieve information. And you can kind of go through this and say, you know what, all of the results I'm getting from, the holistic health alternative, they're not being all that helpful. So I'm going to remove that check mark and update it from there. You have a variety of documents that are going to be showing up in here. Sometimes it's, just kind of a peer-reviewed document. Some of it's, newspaper articles and such. There's videos, there's images, all that kind of stuff. You can kind of go through and see what's relevant for yourself. You can also use the refining options on the left-hand side as well, publication date, whether it's scholarly reviewed, how recent it is, all that kind of stuff. You'll notice on the top two here that there's the basic search, which is what we just ran. You also have the option to do an advanced search, which, as the name suggests, you can just get really specific about the qualifications you're looking for, whether you want to use Boolean terms, which is and or not. Some people will use them, some of them not. If you want to specify publication dates, all that kind of stuff from here. You also see the search history option. Essentially, it's going to record everything that you've searched in this session where your browser is open. So if I close this browser here now, it's not going to keep this Canadian dollar search I just ran. Looks kind of random to begin with, but then, maybe we want to run another search on, Alberta oil. There we go. So now we've run another search. If we go to search history, now we have both of these results here. We can, if we want, run a combining search or a comparing search. So I can say Alberta oil and Canadian dollar, or Alberta oil or Canadian dollar, and see if that helps me narrow down what I'm searching for, and if I get more helpful results. And you can save searches if you find them particularly helpful. You just, click whatever ones and then hit save searches, and it will save it to your account. The databases, some of them are, kind of historic databases. There's a good chunk of them though that are, modern day topics, things like business and news and all that stuff. They're updated on a daily basis. So there's pretty continuously documents getting added to here. So if you do have patrons that maybe don't find exactly what they're looking for, if it's a relatively new topic, they may want to look at changing their terminologies, as well as, give it a couple days and maybe something new will pop up in your searches. Any questions about EBSCOhost? We have almost 20 databases here that it searches through, so there is a good amount of databases here for them. All right. Explora. So Explora is kind of like how our world book is set up. So it is a track purchase, so you do need to have a login. Let me just see here. There are 3 websites for you to choose from. There is Primary, which, as the name suggests, is for early learners. There is Educators Edition, which has a lot of resources for teachers and educators. And there is Explora Canada, which it is more of a primary audience, but it, or maybe junior high and such, but it's got a Canadian focus from the content. So Explora Canada, they all look and work the same. The content itself, though, is just what is different from them. So they should be able to easily, move up from one to the other. They always have things rotating in this carousel on the homepage here, and it's always updated. So this is the Canadian one. And as you can see, we have biographies focusing on Canadian people. Areas where this might be something that you want to think about promoting is looking at geography, current events, especially right now with current events, health, because we have very different health systems here than they do in the United States and just generally the world, and business and government, because we do have, every country has kind of their own spin. Some are democratic, some are not. Some of them have, different interests and focuses. Some of them have, they're landlocked. Why are they going to be focusing on fishing trade versus, somewhere like Canada or the United States where we have oceans around us? So all of this stuff is something, it's kind of a good place to start to make sure people are aware of differences between us and the United States, because sadly, I don't want this to sound bad. We are different than the United States, but a lot of resources, even in libraries, are American companies or American focused. So this is a way to recognize that, there is a Halifax in different parts of the world and they have done different things. We do have different health topics or health debates going on in Canada. Right now, within the next year or so, it looks like we'll have some sort of marijuana legalization, whereas that doesn't seem to be something that's even really being discussed south of the border there. Access to prescription medications, just in general, we have socialized healthcare here. That is not something that the United States has. So there's going to be different views and different biases to all research, but this is one way to ensure that they're getting the proper information if they're doing, a research project on something Canadian. Just like EBSCO databases, you can create an account and save, articles and that kind of stuff to it. You can pick a certain topic like you just saw me do and go through it alphabetically, or you can search for something. You also, again, have the advanced search and the search history options, which you just saw me do. You'll notice on the top too that there's the curriculum standards and the for educators button. This is good for, maybe they're doing, parents are doing, at home homeschooling, or if teachers just want to see, or parents want to see how what they're looking up is related to the curriculum for that grade. The Educators Edition looks like this. Obviously, the content is more focused to teachers and doing, lessons planning and, keeping up to date on new sorts of education and STEM lessons and that kind of stuff. So this is a really cool site if you have maybe teachers that are, it's their first year teaching, or they're doing a different subject than normal, or they want to change up how they're teaching and that kind of stuff. So this is an option for them. And Explora Primary. And again, you've got the rotating carousel on the top. You can do advanced search. You can search the histories. You have your curriculum standards and your For Educators button. You have the ability to make an account, and you have organized by subject, which you can go through alphabetically, or you can search here. So they can pretty seamlessly switch back and forth between primary and Canadian if they need to. Any questions at all about Explora? Okay, perfect. Historic Canada, I'm sure we've all seen the Heritage Minutes. This is who is kind of responsible for that. So they are an independent, oops. So they are an independent organization focused on collecting history. They generally run different sorts of campaigns and projects, and you can kind of see all that stuff if you go to, there's education here, if you go to programs. So they've been like, they actively collect veteran stories from different wars, refugee stories. Canada is we have a lot of immigrants and refugees within the country. So collecting all this information that is going to become history within, a year or two, is kind of important. And you can also see past programs that they're not currently actively doing. And maybe it'll spark some ideas for programs or projects and that kind of stuff. And Historic Canada, again, that's a public website, so you don't have to have a barcode to log into there. Library and Archives Canada. Sorry, this is very humanities heavy. It is the federal kind of branch for libraries and archives. They have primary documents. They have resources here for people starting research, whether that's for specific war or genealogy research, Indigenous heritage, all that kind of stuff. It's all here, federally done. So everyone has access to this. They constantly are, I think they had a 150th kind of project on here. I used them in grad school when I was doing a comparison of shopping magazines from the World Wars, because there was a hole that the Dalhousie Archives had. So I was able to hop on here and get access to the digitized documents that they had done, and that kind of worked perfectly for me. So there's tons of different stuff. You can see here, if you're going to that, maybe Ottawa to do some research, you can get information about that. If you need to do kind of distance, and maybe you'll pay them to do digitizing some documents and that kind of stuff, all of that stuff is here. Lynda.com, you can see here, is coming soon. We are expecting to gain access next week. We just need a couple things done by Janet Ailes, and she gets back from her vacation on Monday. Lynda.com, I mentioned this on all my visits. Kendra wasn't here yet though. So it is an online learning tool. You can essentially, with your library card, take free skills building workshops. It's a really good option. If kids just want to learn how to, make and post videos on YouTube, there's a kind of a session on that. If you have someone who maybe they're a stay-at-home parent and now they need to, maybe update some of their skills because they need to go back into the workforce. If someone, maybe got laid off and they need to do some shifting of career paths, this is somewhere they can go. If you have someone who is potentially graduating high school, they're not totally sure what they want to do, they have learning paths. So you can say, I'm kind of interested in becoming a graphic designer. What exactly does this encompass? And there'll be a list of videos. You can search specific softwares if you want to say, I need to learn how to use Microsoft Excel because all I do is panic when it opens. There's thousands of videos for that. So once we do gain access to that, I will be hosting webinars. Yeah, you should keep an eye out for an email over the next couple days, maybe a week. Mango Languages, the name of that is pretty self-explanatory. Language learning resource. It is patron exclusive. Lynda.com will be patron exclusive as well. Mango Languages, they are currently going to be updating the way that their website looks and works. So when that does change over, again, I'll be hosting webinars and I'll update the manuals and everything like that. This is what it currently looks like. So you can take foreign language courses. There's English language courses as well. You just go to the languages section here and you can see the alphabetized list. Most of them, well, all of them have at least one course, and it's normally called conversational. So it's, how to converse in that language. Some of the more popular languages have multiple courses that you can take. So something like Spanish, Latin American, you have the conversation one, but you also have legal talk, text talk, medical talk, romance, Spanish for librarians. That might be something some of you guys are interested in. And they also have videos too as well. So you just click it and it starts the course. Once you've started a course, it will show up on your homepage here, and you can just kind of click and continue on. This is a really helpful tool if you have people that are, maybe struggling with pronunciation, if people are, maybe trying to learn, maybe they've moved here and they've taken over English language, but they want to learn some old one, some other native language. If they're maybe going on vacation and they want to try and pick up a couple words. If you have someone who is doing homeschooling, you can actually get a timesheet essentially. So you can go to My Activity and it will show you when this has been used. Let's try and find, as you can tell, I haven't used this in quite a while. Let's see. Oh my goodness. So we have one in September, last September here, and August. Let's see, month with more than one. So something like this, you can see the course that they were taking, how much time was spent, how many units, chapters, and lessons were completed, and you can export it to an Excel spreadsheet. So if you have parents or homeschooling or smaller schools that want to keep track of how much time their students have been putting into learning the language, this is here for them. So that's a really helpful tool. You can also go to labs here, and this will tell you what they've currently got in production. So you can essentially sign up to get notifications for when it's been added, and you can just kind of keep up to date as to what they've currently going to be adding. Something like Navajo and that kind of stuff. It sounds really, really cool. And they have apps that, for Android and iOS devices that you download. And within the app, you download the lessons. So this is really handy if you're going abroad, because none of us want those data overages bills. You can download the lessons and take them with you, and just kind of have them handy when you need them. Money Matters, Money Mentors, and My Money Coach. As the name suggests, they're all financial databases. Depending on what you want to do, some of them are, kind of preemptive, learning before you start doing something. Some of them are, you've made some mistakes in your finances, and this is how you get back on track. Some of them are, this is just how you track for, how you spend your money. Some of them you can take webinars that are free, which is really, really nice. On a couple different topics, and they're normally run on the weekends or in the evenings. They do have them during the week too as well. So you can see something like Money Mentors. This is really good for getting out of debt problems. They have financial calculators and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's My Money Coach here is the one with the webinars. Yeah, so you can come here and sign up for webinars that, again, they're totally free. I constantly remind my mother of them, and they run them pretty nonstop throughout the year. And you can see that, these are just September, and they try and hit every day and time at least once on a topic. Novelist, the traditional use of Novelist is just to find a book. It's getting book recommendations. K through 8 is the kid-friendly version. Plus is the no age restrictions version. They are both require a barcode to get into them. They both work the exact same way. They just have a restriction on what is going to be suggested to you. Novelist Plus is orange. K through 8 is blue. From here, though, you can do more than just look for books, even though that is like the most popular items. If kids just need help finding a book, this is a good place to send them. But you also have under the, especially for, there's working with youth help. Under the quick links, there's curriculum connections, grab and go book lists. I know a couple friends who are teachers that they have, some kids that will read if you give them a book, but they're not going to actively go look for a book. She prints these off and gave them to them for the summer, and a bunch of them kids actually appear to have read from the list. Um, Curriculum connections is a particularly helpful one, especially for teachers finding out, how to, navigating fake news in the classroom. That's something that they don't really teach in Teachers College, and it's a new thing that we've had to start worrying about. So this is somewhere you can go to get that kind of information. Or if you have, school librarians and that kind of stuff. All of that stuff is something in here that it's just an extra resource that the teachers can have in their back pocket if they need help or guidance on that kind of stuff. Online Reference Center. This is one that no one seems to really know about, and I feel like it's because people leave the job and then they get hired on and then in schools, and no one they forget to remind them. So this is funded through the province of Alberta. It's essentially an attempt to make sure that no matter if the child is going to school in Rainbow Lake, in Slave Lake, in Grand Prairie, in Edmonton, in Lethbridge, they're all going to have equal access to higher quality resources. So it does require a login for teachers and students. I did send out the the login information in the Excel spreadsheet probably like a year ago or so. If you don't have it, either misplaced it or maybe you don't think you got it, do let me know and I can send it out again, or just give you a physical copy when you come to RLC. Just send me an email. It's just a 4-digit login password. That's why some of these have little red locks. So if you hit sign in, we will sign in with one of the Grand Prairie ones. Sure, I can send you that via email, Kendra. Not a problem. Let me write that down. Yeah, so make sure that the teachers and the students, they just come in and say, I go to this school, and you just find it on the Excel spreadsheet. It's alphabetized, and you can kind of go from there. So once you've logged in, if you go to the Online Reference Center here, you'll see that a bunch of them are unlocked here. They're green now. So the majority of the resources here are required to be at least bilingual. They try to cover every subject and grades as much as possible. There are a couple that overlap between our eResources and the ones on here. They have Early World of Learning, I believe, on here. Yeah, Early World of Learning. So, I mean, they don't have to come here for that, but something like, War of 1812 virtual exhibits. We don't have that on ours. Scholastics. There's a couple of Gale databases on here. They've also linked to the Dictionary of Canadian Biographies, Early Canadiana, the Canadian Encyclopedia, all this stuff. So it's been vetted to make sure that you can translate it, or it has, it's already been translated. There's normally a variety of formats. So there is, text, pictures, videos, all that kind of stuff. And they should have access anywhere as long as they have that login ID. And they do try and cover as many, like I said, subjects as possible. Some of them are hard, like science and math, kind of homework help. It's difficult to find resources that they can afford that are multiple languages and are matched with the Canadian curriculum. Sometimes they will have things on here that say, on trial, so they're trying it out to see if it works. And if it disappears, that means they didn't end up getting it. But they still have a good chunk of resources in here, science and context and powerful knowledge if you're doing physical science or life sciences and earth and space sciences, all that stuff, yeah. Like I said, Overdrive, everyone uses that. Pressreader is our e-magazines and e-newspapers. Great if you have anyone doing any sort of political science research, current events issues, all that kind of stuff. They can come here to get resources, publications from all over the world in a variety of different languages. If they want to compare, political newspapers, even within Canada, I'm sure you could find a Liberal magazine in Ontario that covers something very differently than it is covered by, the Grand Prairie newspaper. So this is a way for they can access this with a library card or whenever they are in a library. There is a downloadable app, so they can download issues if they do want to take them and go. RB Digital magazines, again, depending on the topic, we have some current event ones here. We have some craft ones on here. There's a couple like celebrity magazine stuff on here as well. A lot of arts, that kind of stuff. So they can search by genre. There is no limit to how many issues you can borrow. There is no return date. So as long as you have your library card, you can log in and access this. You can stream it on your computer, or you can use the app on your device called RB Digital and downloads issues and let you read remote on the go without having data on. You can set up too that something like all recipes, you can set it up so that you'll get a notification when a new issue has been added. So, once a month or once a quarter, whenever it comes out, you can find out and be the first to know when the new issue is available. And we have access to all the back issues of a publication for as long as our subscription has lasted. So we got RB Digital, it used to be called Zinio, October 2013, I want to say. So if we have had, I think we've had all recipes since we got RB Digital, we have access to all the back issues from now to October 2013. So there's lots and lots of options for reading. Like I said, Read Alberta eBooks is our Alberta-based ebook platform. Tech boomers, this is one that I don't think really kids and teens will need. We are quite tech savvy and literate for the most part. However, adults and especially seniors, just because of rural life, have a harder time right now adapting to technology. So they can come on here and learn how to use popular things like Facebook. Now I've had to explain to my grandfather, who is actually quite tech literate, how to use Facebook and FaceTime and set up, how to call and look at voicemails if you have an Android device, or, iMessages, LinkedIn. There's some dating sites, spouses pass away and you got to get back in the game. So you can come on here and they can do this at home. You don't need a patron barcode. You don't even need to make an account. You can if you want to kind of save your status. And they can pick certain things, say, I want to figure out how to use Amazon so I can start ordering things online. There's Etsy on here, PayPal, I think Airbnb is on here, Kickstarter, YouTube, Netflix, Pokemon Go, all of these things that sometimes, grandparents and such can feel isolated because the kids and adults are talking about it, but they really don't understand what they're talking about. So this is a way they can learn how to work these things and participate. You can look at social media ones, entertainment ones, shopping, general learning, everyday usage. Internet 101 is kind of a good place to start with some people. Just the basics of knowing, what is privacy on the internet? How to save your passwords. Don't let people into your computers that you don't know. All this kind of stuff that it's secondhand knowledge to me, but it's not to a lot of people. So they can kind of come here, take it at their own pace, and if they need to reread things or come back to it later, it's here for them. Transparent languages, we kind of mentioned Tumble Books. It is a little bit less bright and colorful. It's a little bit more academic in its pursuits, I guess. The login is the exact same login that you use for RB Digital. So if people already read from RB Digital Magazine / Old Zinio, they don't need to make a new account. They just log in with the same email and password. Oh, that's the wrong password. And they can start learning. The first time they log in, they will be brought to the catalog of all of the language courses. There is over 100 different language courses. There's a good chunk of our, so we'll go to more languages. There we go. There's a good chunk of English as a second language one, but it does focus, for the most part, a lot more on foreign languages. I find this one focuses a lot more on pronunciation. So if you have people that maybe they struggle with speech pronunciation and such, this is a good option for them, as well as ESL and that kind of stuff. You'll also notice that they have Indigenous languages. So they do have Cree. It's just a generic Cree. There's no specifications of Plains Cree and all that such yet. They have 2 dialects of Dakota. There is also Ojibwe Cree and 3 dialects of Ojibwe. So if you have patrons that maybe lost, there's a language gap, especially in those communities that were victims of the residential schools. This could be somewhere if they want to get started that they could go to. Once they have begun a course, we'll say this one here, there is an app that they can download, kind of like Mango, that you download the language lesson courses on, and you can kind of use them where you don't have internet, you don't have to use data. Once you've picked a course, you just click this Go Mobile button, and then you have your login credentials for the app. So that is your email, and that is the password when you want to log in to the app to use that. Some of them, if you go to resources as well, have extra resources. So maybe there's a word of the day, a blog, a social media community that you can use to help practice. That is a big reason why a lot of people lose languages if they're not using them. So that is just kind of a way that they can continue to use them, or like YouTube channels and that kind of stuff. Tumblebooks. This is a pretty popular one since we got it about a year and a half ago. It focuses predominantly on people who are just starting to read and learn. Storybooks are animated and narrated, so if there's a shark on it, the shark's fin will wiggle. Read-alongs are the without the animation, essentially. Ebooks are it's a traditional ebook. Graphic novels, there's nonfiction content as well. It's a meet George Washington kind of thing. There's videos, a lot of National Geographic stuff. So it's 2 to 3 minute videos on this is a crocodile. There's math stories as well if you want to focus on introducing them to numbers. Language learning, so there are multiple languages available, not just English. Playlists are compilation of maybe a certain topic, or the playlist itself will run for 20 minutes. And puzzles and games. They've done a really good job of kind of linking everything related. So something like, I think it's the Paper Bag Princess here. If you click read online, it'll launch the book itself. You can add to favorites if you want to make an account. You can make your own playlist. If there is a game related to it, this button will be here. If there isn't, there will be no button. And this word helper option here, it's only on a couple books so far, but it's essentially they pick specific words that maybe they're a little bit more difficult for some ages, and you can click on them and it will slowly pronounce it to help you pick up how to say the word. You can search by author, anything that's hyperlinked in here, or the reading levels as well. There's normally the related titles at the bottom here. The home page is constantly updating. They have kind of the pre-made list here. They have their carousel, which is always up to date. The new ebooks that have been added from a specific publisher maybe. And at the bottom, there's normally a coming soon, so you know what to kind of keep an eye out for. And there's a Robert Munch playlist, as always. You don't really borrow things from here, you just stream them. There is no app, so they never have to worry about late fees. If they have, a computer in the room, they can, kids can listen to this and go to sleep listening to a storybook. They can use a browser on their device as well. There's no limitations that way. And, they never have to worry about they want to read a book that night and it's not available because other people are using it, because everyone just streams it kind of simultaneously that way. And last but not least, WorldBook Online. So WorldBook we have access to 7 sites, and they kind of grow up with the children. So Early World of Learning is beginning to read and learn. Kids is kind of that, elementary school where they're learning how to make science experiments and that kind of stuff. There is a kids in English, in French, and in Spanish. There is students, which is kind of like a junior high, beginning of high school, kind of way to researching kind of option. Timelines, name's pretty self-explanatory. You can make timelines, you can look at pre-made ones, or you can edit pre-made ones. And then advanced is kind of, high school and beyond. Early World of Learning is probably our most popular one here. It's bright, it's colorful, it's cute. All of them, you need a barcode to log in, but after that, you can kind of do whatever you please. Early World of Learning here, so you have videos, you can have stories read aloud to you. They normally have like a certain moral or, be good to each other kind of thing. Know It is just kind of fun facts. Play are, puzzles or mix and match kind of things. Print and Do are print out coloring things. So, it'll have a picture of a parrot to color in, and the wings have a triangle on them. And the instruction will say, color anything with a triangle red, that kind of thing. There is also on the bottom here, if you click the frog, he turns into a prince, as happens in fairy tales. And you go to the fairy tale part of the website here. Story Corner, Nursery Rhymes and Songs, all of them allow you to download the MP3 file. So as soon as you hit play, there'll be a button there that says download MP3 file. It's not the reading along, but it's just the audio file. So if they want to download it and then they can just kind of listen to it on repeat, they can do that as well. You'll see on the bottom here, there's a For Educators button as well. So you have, education tools or any of that kind of stuff that you need. We have kids here. Like I said, there's English, French, and Spanish. The articles will give a link at the bottom of the article saying, read this article in French. And that kind of way you can kind of transition seamlessly between any of them. The kids English site here, there's a rotating background, which you can always see and just click on it and see information. You can search for something specific, you can browse. You can also go to pictures and videos. World of Animals, compare places. World of Animals and Compare Places will let you pick two people or places or animals and compare factors. So you can see, the province of Alberta and British Columbia. What's the population of each? What's the geographic size of each? What is the, what currencies? All that kind of stuff. So they can compare them to start seeing the differences between everywhere. Maps and More gives you a couple different options. You can have atlases or interactive maps and that kind of stuff. Important People will let you pick certain specifications. If you want to learn, you can say, I want to know about a female architect, and it'll give you any results that it has from there. And science projects. This is actually something that I could see our libraries using if they want to do some sort of STEM projects and have a science day. These are pretty friendly science experiments that you can do. You can say, I want to do something on plants. And we are going to look at the water cycle in plants. And from here, you can see what exactly you need, how to do it, and just kind of an introduction information. A lot of the pages too will have this tool option, so you can see if you need to download anything or email or print anything like that, or translate it if you need to do something other than English. Timelines, I'll show you that one here. As I said, you can make your own. You can see pre-made ones and just take them as is, or you can edit pre-made ones and, maybe add a couple extra events. This is really great if you have students that need to visualize things happening in history. Some of it's, pretty depressing, sometimes the history of South Africa, but they have things in here of like, Nobel winners. They have history of the Stanley Cup, the Olympics going back to, thousands of years, systems and institutions, all this kind of stuff. So you can take them and use them to maybe do your own studies. You can take them and use them for your own project and add in events, or you can just, make something from scratch if you need to visualize what you're trying to explain. The really nice thing is you can make an account on either Timelines, Student, or Advanced, and it collects everything in that one account. So if you save something on Timelines, you'll be able to see it when you're on your account on Student. So if you find certain things on different sites, on either Student that maybe Advanced doesn't have, or vice versa, it's all in one single spot, and you don't have to make multiple accounts. And the last one I want to show you here is Student. So it's pretty similar to the advanced one. It just advanced is laid out as slightly different. You can, my research is kind of your account. Citation Builder, really, really helpful for students. World Resources, how to do research. This is something that a lot of people, some people just know, and some people need some help and some guidance on exactly how to write a paper, how to come up with a thesis, when do I do what, in what order. So they can come here to find that out, and then they can come here to just do general searching of, finding out about, I don't know, the rainforest and that kind of stuff. All of that stuff is here, and you have these find it by option that you can search for information this way, or you can hit take me to, and these are all of the different tools, trivia quizzes, timelines will link you to the timeline. They have interactive maps. Some of the eResources or some of the features will overlap between, kids has maps as well, so does student. Timelines is linked, all that kind of stuff. So that is Worldbook Student. Definitely take a look at some of these if you want to try keeping them up on the computer screen when the kids or the students and teachers and such are coming in, or if you just want to send the teachers in the community, if you're on good name basis with them, just send them a list of, hey, just so you know, the eResources page on the library has been updated. There's a section for educators and students now. Let me know if you need any help, kind of thing. If you have any questions, now is a good time to ask them. I will send you the login information spreadsheet there, Kendra, hopefully by right after this webinar here. And hopefully I'll have the recording for this webinar up in a couple days. If you don't have any questions, I will see you guys at RLC this month in a couple weeks. But if you have any questions before then, feel free to send me an email or give me a phone call, and I will be happy to help. Have a wonderful day, ladies.